So I was with my family at an amusement park, and I was in line with my son, who is one of the most impatient people out there. Now, let's be honest, I'm a little impatient sometimes too, but he gets it honestly. But he's a little bit worse than me. But isn't that what everyone says when they're talking about someone else? Anyway, I digress. We were standing in line, and as we're in this long line at the amusement park, he looks around and he says, "Mommy, why can't we move? We're stuck in line." And I looked at him and said, "Son, we aren't stuck. We are waiting." And when I thought about that in relation to you, my happily ever employed audience, my employeepreneurs. Sometimes you call me or you slide in my DMs and you ask for coaching and you say, "Dethra, help me out. I'm in my career and I'm stuck." And when I talk to you and do the assessment, before I take you on as a client, I'll say, "You're not ready right now because you are not stuck. You are waiting." And there is a difference. If you think you're stuck, you are frustrated, you're bumping your head against a wall, you're tired, you're about to tap out because you think you aren't moving anywhere. But when you recognize the difference that you are not stuck, you are waiting, you handle that transition period differently. When my son thought we were stuck, he thought he had no options. Now in this waiting phase, he had a chance to decide. I said, "We're not stuck, you're waiting." Now because we're waiting, you have some options. You can decide, you know what? This ride is going to be so interesting and worth it for me. I'm going to stay in the line. Or you can look at the line and think ahead and say, this is a long line. I heard about this ride, been on this ride before. It's not worth it for me to keep waiting. Let's get out of line. So recognizing the difference gives you options. So let me tell you how you know you are waiting versus you are stuck. I'll just give you 3 ways. Of course, there are tons, but I always give you 3. Number 1, you have a lot more to learn. So if you're new to your position and you realize there is a huge learning curve, a huge learning gap, and I have so much to learn. Yes, I'm ready to get promoted. Yes, I'm ready for that next job. I'm ready because I want to be, not because my skill set is ready. I have a lot to learn. I'll give you an example. Working with a client recently, and she recently got a job to a regional vice president. So her region, though, is not regional like you think of Southeast, Midwest. Her region is North and South America. That's Canada, US, Mexico, Central America, Brazil, North and South America. She's been in that job 6 months and she's really anxious about going to the next level. But she has a lot to learn. She went from being over a region in the US to being over 2 continents. She's not going to learn that information in 6 months. She's not probably going to be ready for it next year, 2, 3 years, sometimes 5 years in the position that she has. So when she's thinking, I want to move up, the question is, have you learned what you need to learn to move to the next thing? So instead of saying stuck, she's waiting. She's waiting to attain the knowledge that's required to master where she is and be set to go to the next level. So 1, you have too much to learn. 2, there are no positions available. You aren't stuck, you're waiting. Here's the reality, and I'll do another podcast another time to talk about the timeline to get from one position to the next. But at the top of the organization, there's only one CEO. There's only one CFO. There may be a few senior vice presidents. But the higher you get in the organization, the less positions there are available. You need way more people on the factory line than you need managing the factory. So at a certain point in your career, there just aren't a lot of positions and you're waiting for a position to open up. So number 1, you have a lot to learn. Number 2, there are just no positions available. And number 3, this is about you. You don't have direction. If you don't know where you're going next, you aren't stuck. You're waiting. You're waiting on clarity. You're waiting to figure some things out. You're waiting to do the personal work that's required to determine, where do I want to be? What do I want to be when I grow up? Where do I want to retire from? Even for some of us, what region do we want to live in? Do I even want to live in the U.S.? Do I want to work remotely? Do I want to work abroad? Do I want to work for a small business, a large corporation? What do I really want, and what's next for me? You aren't stuck. You're waiting for clarity. So when you're thinking about this thing, when you're thinking in your career and you're frustrated because you feel stuck, you might be stuck. But before you assign that label to your situation, I want you to ask yourself a question. Am I stuck, or am I waiting? If you're stuck, call me. I'll get you unstuck. But if you're waiting, the next question is, what am I waiting for? Am I waiting for additional education, experience, information? Am I waiting on an opportunity or a position to become available? Am I waiting on clarity that I get from myself? But if you're waiting, find out what you're waiting for, resolve that, and then we can talk about whether you are stuck or not.